answer a single question. What other alternatives do we have to save Hindus in their own land from going extinct? Extinction, isn't it a big word to use? You're saying a civilization that survived hundreds of invasions for thousands of years is facing extinction, and you say we don't have an alternative force powerful enough to save the interests of Hindu civilization? Yes. What makes you say so? India needs saving? From what exactly? Right to the point. The suffering and turmoil that the Uttara Bharat went through the last millennia is inconceivable. Ever wonder why Dakshin Bharat preserved much of its temple heritage while Uttaram is filled in ruins? It is because for the invaders to reach south, they must pass through the north. Successful or not, the kings in the northern kingdoms kept fighting the Muslim invaders. When unsuccessful, the kings from the south attempted to bring the lost lands back into Dharmic rule. Even when lost, the Indian kings did not allow the invaders to take over easily. They stood so strong because the people made them stand strong. People wanted their kings to fight for them as they were sane enough to think for the future generations. The multiple waves of invaders hit the north again and again, destroying the temples in their path. Southern kingdoms were favored by the geography, which granted them enough time to learn about the barbarous nature of the invading desert cult. This allowed the southern kingdoms to be prepared in protecting their temples. It is the cultural heritage that kept the flame of fighting spirit alive in the people of Bharat. They built and rebuilt over and over because of the spiritual connection with this land. Temples kept the culture alive. Bharat evolved a culture of construction while the desert cultivated a cult of destruction. People of Bharat embraced the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbam. The entire world is a family, but it will never work one way. The desert cult with Mongoloid genes are programmed to destroy barbarians. They are brought up by the teachings of hatred towards the rest of humanity. If you don't hate a kafir, then you are bound to burn in hell for eternity. But in fact, nobody knows where that hell is located. Nobody has seen, but they believe because of the kind of fear they infuse in their minds right from the age of kids. In their youth, they will be seduced into war with a filthy promise for the afterlife. A child brought up with such fear and filth, when grown up into a man, will become nothing but a monster. A cultureless monster who enjoys destroying the real culture. No surprise why their sultans kept coming back with new armies of fools even after getting kicked in their asses multiple times. At one point or the other, they succeeded not because of their skillful war, but because of their deceitful tactics of employing backstabbers from our very own people. A handful of backstabbers facilitated the empires to collapse and made the masses fall prey for their cultureless vultures. It took centuries for the Hindus to get back on their feet again. Finally, they managed to overthrow the barbaric rule. But before they built back, people were introduced to another cult of parasites. Our ancestors forgot the lessons they learned from the past and let those parasites feed on our blood. Do you know how hyenas hunt their prey? They will target a weakling among the herd and isolate it for an easy catch. The Western parasites of the past did the same and applied the policy of divide and rule. They neither had men nor the power to force Bharat into slavery, but they succeeded. Wonder how? They played our own men against us. They employed the goons who were shameless enough to backstab our own people for the leftovers of the loot. It took 200 years to kick out the parasites, draining the lifeblood out of our land. Had the people learned anything this time? Yes, they did. They learned how cruel a foreign rule can be and how humiliating it is to live as a second-rate citizen in our own land. Had anyone really learnt? Not really. If they were, they wouldn't be allowing their temples getting looted, their culture getting mocked, their oppressors being glorified. But it is clear that one thing they never learned, it is always the internal enemies that open the doors to the external enemies.